the creator of the most popular Salesforce blog in the world.
Been in the Salesforce world for about 8 years now.
Who's your inspiration in the Salesforce space?
Yourself, of course.
Hello, Ben. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Sayat. How are you doing?
I'm also so excited to talk to you, the creator of the most popular Salesforce blog in the world, right here with me.
Yes, yeah. Thank you very much for having me on. It's an honor to speak to you. I've seen a lot of your content, so it's very good to be chatting with you.
Thank you very much. Ben, tell us about yourself in your own words.
So, my name is Ben, or also known as Salesforce Ben. I've been in the Salesforce world for about 8 years now. So I got into Salesforce completely by luck into a graduate job. And it's been a pretty crazy ride from there. So I've worked in a few various roles, such as end users. I've worked for an ISV Conga before, back when they were a lot smaller than they are now. And I think they've got 600 people, and I was like employee number 40 or something.
Wow, really?
After that, freelancing. Yeah, and they've also just gone through a £800 million merger with Actus, which is pretty crazy. So they've done very well. After that, I did a bit of freelancing consulting on the side as well, and more recently, I say it's 4.5 years ago now. I joined a company called EMPAUA, which was a SI, so a consulting company, implementation partner of Salesforce. Joined as a consultant, but I actually got moved into the managing director role pretty soon after I joined, which was very exciting. I'm sure we'll speak a bit about that later. And then, of course, kind of throughout my time working in Salesforce, I've also founded SalesforceBen, which is one of the most popular Salesforce blogs and news sites in the world, which keeps me very busy. It's grown pretty substantially now. So we get 180,000 users a month now, and it's growing year on year, quite a significant amount, which is very cool to see.
That's amazing. I remember first time when I saw the Salesforce Ben blog, I'm like, wow, he could have been more creative with the name or something. I was like,
yes.
Oh.
Yes.
but then I like the logo, like the Superman logo. And
we've kind of phased that out now for copyright issues, because when I initially did it, it was literally Superman with my face on.
Yeah.
And I got someone to get a letter through the door, but
Okay. But I really like it now. I check it out a lot. And let's talk about the blog. I think that's your passion, right? Something you've created yourself. And I've written a couple of articles for it. Thank you very much for publishing it. It made me think harder about certain topics. I was very honored that I could appear on the most popular Salesforce blog in the world. So tell us about the blog. How do you call it? Blog or a news site, or how would you describe it?
Yeah, it's I've always called it a blog, but we've always kind of had a vision to be more like I've always looked at TechCrunch as that one of the leading tech sites for it's got a lot of business stuff on there, but a lot of news about tech companies and apps and things like that. And I've always looked at them and gone like, this is the kind of website I want to create for the Salesforce ecosystem, because there's so much going on. There's so many different types of companies, different roles, that there's so much to blog about. So I've always looked at them and gone kind of, that's the kind of vision that I have. So more recently, we've kind of stopped calling it a blog, because I don't think it really represents the site anymore. But at the same time, it's not a news site, because it's not just news. We do a lot of career stuff and tutorials. So I haven't really nailed down kind of the best way to describe it yet. But I mean, the kind of thing we're focusing on the moment is career development of Salesforce professionals. So we're trying to put out content that helps people in any way in their careers. And I think to an extent that also includes quite a bit about news, Salesforce news, like new products, new features, ISV news as well. So we're going to start doing quite a bit about ISVs, because that's obviously a huge community that also needs to be served as well. So haven't nailed that down yet, but I think the one thing we want to do is just serve the Salesforce community in any way we can.
And what are the metrics you follow to see that the community is embracing? I know you have a lot of visitors. What are some metrics you track?
So I think quite a lot, but I mean, the main one is users. I used to do page views when I was a bit more inexperienced, but I think users is just a much better metric to look at. What else do we look at? There's a lot of smaller ones we look at that I think anyone who runs a website should know about, like bounce rate and time on page and stuff like that. You know, it's really good, especially on individual blogs, to see if people are actually reading them. You know, some of our blogs are like 4,000 words long, so it's really cool to see that when people are actually reading it, and it obviously means they're getting value out of it, which is good. Another one we're focusing on more at the moment is social. So social growth, social impressions, traffic from social and things like that. So we've recently kind of redone, we've got a marketing executive that's joined us to do all of our social media and support with some other things. And I worked with her to kind of put down a social schedule. We were actually thinking that we're posting too much on social, so we've kind of narrowed it down. We used to repost all of our posts. So we used to use this tool where, it would kind of shuffle them out and put them across social, but now we've really narrowed it down to the ones that resonate the most with people and the ones that get the most attention, and then we put those out weekly along with all the new posts that go out as well.
When you say social, are you referring to Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn?
The ones you just named, so LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. We're starting to use Instagram as well, which has been really cool actually. I think it's just quite nice to be a bit creative with Instagram, because it's obviously a very visual platform, so that's quite cool. YouTube we're starting to do more of. We haven't really focused. I know YouTube is one of your expertises, and I've seen a lot of people start using YouTube as a platform. It's something that we haven't had time to focus on yet, but it's something that we'd like to focus on in the future.
Cool. What's your proudest achievement around Salesforce, Ben?
Proudest achievement? It's hard to think of one. One that kind of comes to mind is in the Mason Frank salary survey that they do every year. They don't just focus on salary, they focus on quite a lot of other aspects as well. But there was one question they asked a few years ago that said, where do you get your Salesforce news from? And SalesforceBen had 20%, I think, of the 20% highest. And then below that was kind of like the Salesforce website, LinkedIn, Twitter, stuff like that. So that was like absolutely amazing to see that people do use our site. And that was a couple of years ago as well, before we started doing a lot of that news. So yeah, it is really hard, because it is just amazing to see it grow. And it's so, you know, we got a few messages every week, you know, from people saying thanks a lot. And we got a couple from some people in South America, one from Brazil, one from Argentina, just saying that they love it. They go on the site, you know, people in South America use the site a lot, you know, which is just incredible, and it means a lot. So yeah.
Why do you think SalesforceBen site is popular? Because there are a lot of other websites too. Do you think it's the community that you're like sourcing it from many smart people contributing, or do you have good editors, or is it like website design, or is it consistency? What do you think is key to your success?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's definitely everything that you mentioned there. I think consistency is the big one, really. When I wasn't the first one to do a Salesforce blog. There were a lot of people that I used to look up to, David Liu started before me. He was someone I used to look up to. I remember Admin Hero was a popular blog, and still is. I think Brent still blogs sometimes. So I definitely wasn't the first, but I did do it very consistently. So you know, I tried every 1 or 2 weeks in my first year. Second year was kind of every week. Third year was every week, and now it's, I think, 8 posts a week across SalesforceBen and the Drip, which is our sister blog, our marketing automation blog. So I think that definitely helps. I also think we've pivoted in some key ways. So yeah, having guest posters, I think, is definitely a way that drives it, because that just keeps the content going. And I think we've managed to kind of quite a nice selling point for the guest posters, because, you know, guest posters like to blog for a variety of reasons, but ultimately quite a lot of them want to be seen as thought leaders. And I think we've got a platform that really does that. So, you know, people really want to share, they want to give back to the Salesforce community, they want to be seen as thought leaders, and I think our site really helps them do that. So it's definitely great to have so many people that want to blog on the platform and support the Salesforce community. But then to put on top of that, I think we do have very good editors. So or editor is Lucy Mazelon. So she knows content really well, she knows Salesforce really well. So any post that kind of comes through us, and I'm sure you've probably spoken to Lucy, so she will advise, she will make edits to make sure that it's perfect before it goes out. because a lot of people aren't content experts, they're Salesforce experts, but they don't necessarily know how to structure a post in the best possible way. So I think that has really helped as well. I also think listening to feedback as well. We did a survey a couple of years ago and asked readers, what they thought of the content, what content they liked. Looking at the kind of analytics behind blog posts about what people actually like reading. So yeah, I think there's quite a lot, but I do say to everyone, I think number one thing is consistency. You just have to consistently put out good content, and you will get noticed, you'll become successful, and yeah, it will pay off.
Well done. That's a lot of discipline. One to post weeks and every week. That's it's not easy to do it in your free time, right? This wasn't your full-time job, right?
Yeah,
well done.
exactly.
So you said you did some analytics about what readers like. So what kind of articles attract the most viewers? Is it like how to get a job, or is it like how to set up something?
So those two definitely. So I remember the ones that used to. I think to loop back to your previous question, what made it grow so big? I think I used to write up about certifications. So I used to. I had 7 certifications, if you minus Dev 401, and after every one I would write up a post about my experience. And I think because when I was writing them, I was quite new into the Salesforce ecosystem, I could really resonate with people who hadn't yet taken it, and I knew that the areas that were tricky. So those are really popular. Certification guides, really anything about certifications is popular. I think just because people just love them. They just want to get as certified as possible. I remember when I was starting, like 6 or 8 was impressive, and now I think I saw someone the other day with 30 or something. So it's crazy. But yeah, career is also resonates very well. So we put out a solution architect post the other day, like what does it take to become a solution architect? That was extremely popular by a guy called Luke Potter. Same with admin and developer career content is really popular. Features as well, new features, like we blogged about Salesforce meetings that came out the other day, dynamic actions and dynamic forms, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, it came out a few months ago, and they've been really popular. So yeah, I just think you have to, if you're running a blog, you just have to see out what works, because we've started the blog less about, I don't know, we used to do kind of niche tutorials, like how to set up this feature for this niche process that maybe exists in one industry, and that was never going to be that popular with people. Still might be useful because it might resonate with some people, but it's never going to be as popular as admin, career development things, or
What's the biggest challenge you face right now with the blog? Is it like organizing the information because you have so much content? How do you set it up, or is it just I don't know, keeping up the strong growth, finding more good writers? What's the biggest challenge you face right now?
By far, it's like operationalizing everything and creating a process. So we actually bought Salesforce a few months ago. Before that, we were using Excel spreadsheets. Before that, we were just using email inboxes. And it's funny because working at EMPAUA, I used to work with a lot of startups and tell them, how bad it is to just use emails to manage your support, or to use, Excel spreadsheets to manage your CRM. But that's exactly what we were doing. And I guess these things creep up on you, and it starts failing when it starts failing. And before that, it's hard to see it. But Lucy has been working on she's a Salesforce consultant as well. So she's been really instrumental in kind of defining a process, creating a Salesforce org. So we use Sales Cloud, but we've heavily customized it with, a content object and a community now as well. So Salesforce guest posters can get a community license. They can log in, they can submit ideas. The idea gets approved. They can upload the Google Doc so we can review it. And then there's like a process that they can see, what stage it's in, when it's going to be released. If we change the release date, which we do sometimes because things need to be shuffled around, it emails them out saying your post has been changed to this. So I think it's hopefully giving a lot better experience to the guest posters as well, because we're being a bit more proactive now rather than reactive. So they would kind of reach out to us and go, hey, you might have done it yourself. Like, hey, when's my post going to be posted? Which can be a bit frustrating because we are pretty busy. So that's been the biggest challenge, but it's going really well at the moment, and we're really excited for what the future holds with it.
Wow. Great, great. As my CEO likes to say, eat your own dog food. Is
Yes, exactly.
using your own products or your own suggestions.
Yeah, it took a while, but we finally made the leap.
Yeah, I was very impressed when I saw you guys were using Quip. I've only seen
Mm,
Salesforce use it when in my interactions with them. I'm like,
mm.
they only use it because it's their own product. I'm like, who else uses Quip? And I was like, okay, SalesforceBen use it.
Yeah. That worked really well. I'm not too sure if we're still using it actually. I think we're using Google Docs instead because,
Oh, really?
yeah, it did. I can't remember the reason we stopped using it, but it did work really well for a while. I think it was the fact that you could do templates or something like that. So, we would kind of structure the post and say, okay, you need an introduction, your main bit goes here, then do a conclusion. Yeah, that was it was very useful actually, but I think
Okay.
we've moved away now. Yeah.
Okay. So you were in EMPAUA for a while. You were the managing director, and because you were
Yeah.
managing director, I thought, wow, I thought it was your own startup. You just didn't want to put co-founder in it. I was like, wow, you were running an amazing blog, and then you started your own company. I'm like, wow, this guy is on fire. But then I just recently learned that you were employee, and now you moved on to a new company. Can you tell us
Yeah.
about it? Is it public information?
It kind of is, yeah. It is public information. So I haven't put it on my LinkedIn yet. So I'm going to be co-founding an ISV with someone else in the industry to do with marketing attribution. So essentially, this is something that I've been kind of working on in the background for a while, and quite a big issue in the Salesforce ecosystem is marketing attribution with digital marketing systems. So the first one that we're focusing on is Google Ads, integrating Google Ads into Salesforce. So if you think of quite a lot of B2B companies will use Google Ads, then the leads will go into Salesforce, and then they'll go through the sales cycle, which could be anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 months, 9 months, and it's very, very hard to track that back to Google Ads. And then if you multiply that by, you're getting 100 leads a month and you're spending tens of thousands of pounds, you might be able to guesstimate about what your ROI is, but it's very, very hard to actually see what it actually is. So yeah, that's the product I'm working on at the moment. Product's called Nimble, nimble.ai. Nimble.ai is the website. And yeah, we're initially going to be launching with Google Ads and Salesforce integration. But then in the future, there's so many other digital marketing platforms, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. So yeah, there's a big kind of vision and roadmap for the future as well. But I'm very excited to work with an ISV because, as you said, I've worked in consulting for 4.5 years now, and I think it's time to kind of pivot a bit. So I'm looking forward to it.
So why are you excited to work for an ISV? I work for an ISV right now, and I used to work for a consulting firm before.
Oh, cool.
What do you find most exciting about ISV? Is it that you have a certain product, something very specific, and you're not like rushed by a customer all the time and under stress? What makes you think ISV is interesting?
Yeah, I think it's for the reasons you mentioned. I think consulting was amazing and I learned so much. And I write quite a lot about going from admin to consultant because it's something that I did. And I just think if you're looking to learn as much as possible, there's no better career path.
Yes.
For me personally, I was involved in sales. So for basically 4.5 years, it wasn't something I ever planned to do. I really enjoyed it during my time, but I don't think sales is kind of is where I want to just want to be in that role. And with consulting, and it's kind of interesting with Salesforce consulting partners, is because you're partnered with Salesforce. So a lot of the sales is alliances, and it's quite an interesting web of how you network inside Salesforce and how you get deals. But I think I much prefer the sales and marketing side of things. So I much prefer, being able to create like a marketing machine, creating content that gets people interested in your product, which is something that I've got a lot of experience from to SalesforceBen. I've never actually been involved in a marketing role before. But this is something that I'm really looking forward to working at as Nimble, is kind of developing the sales process, the marketing process, and optimizing channels and thinking of innovative ways to get the message out about the product. So there's that side of it, but then there's also, as you mentioned, the product development side. So product development is something I'm very new to and I'm starting to take on, but speaking to customers, getting their feedback, implementing it into the product, and as you said, building something kind of, not physical, but kind of physical, that you can actually see and see it develop, and actually helping customers is something that's really interesting to me. So yeah, those are probably the main reasons.
Cool. So you're the like this in the ISV in the startup. You're the sales guy, like Steve Jobs, and then you have the technical side probably on the other side, right? The CTO.
Yeah. So I'm going to be doing a bit of sales and marketing, sales, marketing, and product development. And yeah, my co-founder has been doing quite a lot of the technical stuff so far. But yeah, we're got a few beta customers at the moment, which is quite good, and hoping to launch properly in the next month or so. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting more people's feedback, and we're giving free trials and stuff like that. So if anyone listening is interested, then yeah, hit me up.
Cool. Yeah, check up SalesforceBen, become his friend on LinkedIn, and you'll soon see information about his startup. Anything SalesforceBen does so far seems to do well. So if you jump on early in his bandwagon, you'll get some good deals, good extra special treatment. You were at EMPAUA, and you have SalesforceBen blog. You're most familiar with which European Salesforce markets? Is it like the UK or Western Europe? I'm just curious to learn more about
UK
the
market.
UK market?
Yeah, UK market I know pretty much inside out, I think, just because it's the main one I've worked at. Germany I know slightly because we were headquartered out of Germany. And then I would know a little bit about other countries, but not a huge amount.
Can you tell us about the European Salesforce market? Where is it growing fast? Who are the customers typically? Like in US, I think right now the big growth is coming from like the government sector, like at the federal, municipal level, they're embracing Service Cloud and even Community. And I'm just curious what the landscape is like in Europe, in the markets that you're familiar with.
It's funny you mentioned government actually, because I got a friend who's founded a consultancy, and they are working with the government. And they are taking off. And I know Salesforce has just created a dedicated team for government now, like a verticalized team, to focus on that, like NHS, local government and things like that, because it is growing very fast. But I don't think it's something that a lot of people know about, because you need quite a bit of experience working in that industry to kind of get into it. So yeah, that is one that I've heard about. What other ones? I mean, financial services has always been huge in the UK. I remember seeing, and fintech's pretty big as well. And I remember seeing a slide that Salesforce showed the growth potential for all the different industries, and financial services was like double everything else, like the total addressable market, and they hadn't really penetrated hardly any of it, which I guess is all of the old school financial firms that haven't switched over to a cloud-based solution yet. So that's in the UK. I know in Germany, my colleagues always used to talk about the Mittelstand, something like that, which is kind of the mid-market, which is all you think of Germany as this, huge manufacturing powerhouse. And they've got all of these manufacturing plants that, are out of the city in the countryside that haven't been digitally disrupted yet. So I think there's still a huge potential in Germany in that area. From what I've heard, I think the UK growth is slowing down compared, similar to the US. US growth is slowing down because, Salesforce have been there for many years. So I would imagine it's probably the other European countries that probably have a faster growth potential. But I know the Nordic area has quite heavy Salesforce penetration, quite a lot of consulting partners over there. Yeah, Spain, I'm not too sure. We did used to have a Spanish office actually, but we turned it kind of into a development office instead, because we weren't seeing a huge amount of traction over there. But yeah, as I said, I think overall there's a huge amount of potential anyway. I say Salesforce is slowing down in the UK, slowing down by a couple of percent points, I don't know, 30% to 28% a year or something like that. It's still absolutely massive, the potential. So I wouldn't want to put anyone off from investing in the UK.
What are the biggest Salesforce markets in Europe? Is it UK?
Yes,
you'd say?
UK is one of the biggest. I actually found out the other day that Japan is the second biggest Salesforce market in the world after the US. Yeah.
What?
Crazy. Yeah.
I knew something was going on there, because I see so much Japanese content and all these Japanese Salesforce MVPs. Like, I don't see any Korean MVPs or like Indonesian MVPs. I'm like, something is going on in Japan. And that's the biggest, second biggest market.
Yeah, I'm guessing that maybe that's just been penetrated for years, and yeah, I guess we don't hear about it too much in the Western world. But yeah, I think UK is definitely the biggest, but I'm not too sure about the others. I would imagine Germany is also pretty big. I think France is also pretty big. Salesforce bought that, can't remember their name, but bought a consultancy in France to help them bulk up their Salesforce professionals there about 3 or 4 years ago.
Really?
So they must have seen the potential there. Yeah, not too sure actually. Poland, I've heard a bit about a buzz over there. You know, quite a few consultancies popping up there as well, which is out, you know, serving the UK market and other European countries, but also the Polish market as well. So
yeah, I was interested. I have some colleagues in Belarus, the amazing Salesforce developers. We have some QA team people, Salesforce QA people. They're in Ukraine, and I'm curious about the Eastern Europe as a outsourcing powerhouse. I don't have any data. I'm just curious how big these Eastern European countries are.
Yeah, we used to use one in Ukraine, who was pretty big and well known in the UK market. I've known a few. My girlfriend used to work at a Polish consultancy in Warsaw, so she moved out there for a year. So I know quite a few people in Poland through her. And yeah, the market is fairly big over there. Actually, it's fairly active.
Cool. Yeah, I would love to interview someone from the Eastern European market so that we can get a picture of what's going on there. Maybe it's also like Japan, stealth. Our partner in Belarus, they have like 200 Salesforce developers. Okay, yeah, last question, Ben. Can you tell me who's your inspiration in the Salesforce space and why?
Who's my inspiration? I'd probably say firstly, David Liu has always been someone that I've looked up to. I was actually on a podcast with him the other day, and it was funny because he was kind of talking about, I think I was asking him for advice or something when I first started my blog. His had been around for a few years. So I've always respected him. I think he used to do a lot of, you know, technical stuff, and now in his own words, he's trying to create content that inspires people. And I think that's you know, a great thing to have. And it's a real niche, you know, just someone out there inspiring people. I know he came from a non-Salesforce background and grew his career from Salesforce, so he's been there. So yeah, I would definitely say David. Another person that I really respect is Steph Herrera, who's the founder of Salesforce Saturdays and Pep Up Tech, and probably a bunch of other things that I'm forgetting. But you know, I think she's done. I met her once, and she had to keep reminding me what she was the founder of. And I was like, oh yeah, and she was on stage with Mark Benioff. Oh yeah. And yeah, she's just done so much for the community, I think, with Pep Up Tech and Salesforce Saturdays. And I'm always looking for ways to help the community. And I think, you know, she's a really good role model for people to look at. And you know, if you really get your head down and put the effort in, you know, you can create something really cool. So yeah, a lot of people I look up to. Lucy, my editor as well, she's very, very good to work with. Someone who's very, very driven and yeah, really cool person to work with. So yeah, quite a few of them.
Cool.
And yourself, of course, for hosting this amazing podcast and creating so much great content.
I didn't expect that. Thank you very much. All right, Ben. Thank you so much for your time.